Jan, an announcement was made a few days ago in the French and international press about the official launch, first one in the world, which is the launch of the genomic selection in duck industry by Grimaud Frères. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's a major information, as the genomic selection tool was not used so far in duck selection. And Grimaud Frères is the first company in this activity to use this genomic selection. You know, genomic selection is not new at all because it's used in cattle selection since more than 20 years. And then in pig selection or poultry selection as well, like a layer of or chicken since 10 years already.
It's new for ducks, right?
But for ducks, so far, nobody was using it, and so we started that with the ducks recently, this year. And Grimaud Frères is a leading company in duck selection, and this tool is necessary for getting better performances and to have duck meat as competitive or more competitive, if possible, compared with other poultry meat or even other kind of meat. So it was a necessity for Grimaud Frères or for any other selection company in ducks to bring this new tool for the duck industry.
So it's a good news for the duck performances for customers, but as well it's a good news for the competitiveness of the duck meat against the poultry meat, the poultry meat.
Okay. Exactly.
You will be able to explain it all just in a few moments, but first I get that we got a movie that explains well, how does it work? Please, can you send the movie?
On April 22, 2021, Grimaud Frères launched exclusively worldwide the first genomic duck selection. The following minutes will show you how Grimaud Frères Genomics allows you to go further in the selection of animals. Since its creation, traditional genetic selection has exploited genealogical links and individuals' zootechnical performances. It identifies the most effective subjects on defined criteria, such as good adaptation to their rearing environment, weight, or even consumption index. The breeding champions are selected and will themselves give birth to higher performing farm animals. To select the best animals, our experts use the latest available technologies, such as RFID chips, a scanner, or connected sensors. We generate very large amounts of data for each animal and each family of animals. In other words, big data. Our experts then create the algorithms to analyze this data and then predict the characteristics of the offspring of the selected animals. The genomics selection launched today by Grimaud Frères adds a vital complementary piece of information to this existing dataset: direct access to the genetic heritage of each subject. It makes it possible to assign a genomic value to each individual and thus to identify future champions from a very young age. The selection process becomes much more precise, therefore more efficient, but also much faster by playing favorably on the reduction of the generation interval. It is thus possible to increase the number of candidates initially set up and thus increase genetic progress. A tissue sample from the duck is placed on a plate, which is then isolated and DNA extracted. An SNP chip then reads 60,000 markers of the DNA sequence and thus brings an unprecedented and precise knowledge of each individual. This unparalleled precision allows Grimaud Frères to better understand, analyze, and thus select the molecular combinations of markers associated with the optimal performance of ducks. Selecting ducks that are naturally more resistant to diseases, with better physical composition, better food efficiency, or a higher net yield increases the performance, well-being and health of the animals, while reducing the environmental impact of the farming. This increased progress for our customers is already underway thanks to the global launch of duck genomic breeding by Grimaud Frères.
Guillaume Lemignon has just joined us. Welcome and hello, Guillaume.
Hello, Julien.
Guillaume, you are a genetist for Grimaud Frères and you are specifically in charge of the implementation of the genomic selection program. Can you go back over the key principle of the genomic selection?
Yes, of course. The genomic selection is very similar for genetic selection programs, but we only had the information of molecular marker well distributed on the DNA. So we read this information like we can read a barcode, for example, high resolutive barcode. And never, I think it's very important to well understand that, never we modify the molecule of the DNA.
Yeah, because some people do a mix between the two. There's a huge differences between genomic selection and gene editing, which is totally different thing.
Totally different,
Here
yes.
we are not talking about gene editing. We don't modify the genome. We only read information. That's correct?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. So we understand that it's mainly a purpose of a fantastic new information that you get on the duck that you don't had before. But why is it so advantageous compared to a classical genetic selection?
The genomic selection have a lot of advantage because we can act on the 4 criteria implied in the genetic progress. First one, we are more precise, so we don't speak about genetic value now, but genomic value. And secondly, we are more precise, so we can detect earlier the best animal in the population, and we can imagine, for example, increase the number of candidates to be to be more benefit on the intensity of selections. Thirdly, we can select the best breeder earlier too, and we can anticipate if we want a novel pedigree, and we can reduce the interval of generations. And to finish, we can act on, but it's easier to manage the genetic variability of each trait. So we can act on the genetic progress at 4 levels too.
Okay, so I understand that it's stronger, it's better, and it's faster. Well, stronger, better, faster. It reminds me a song of Daft Punk, right? You know it. Okay, and what concretely our customers can hope about this new genomic selection? In terms of progress?
Yeah, of course. The genomic selection is very efficient, I think, for traits hard to measure or partially measure on the populations, are expensive to measure, like feed efficiency, like breast muscle yield, like feeding behavior or behavior too. And also is a good opportunity for traits measured late during the life of the animal, like leg performance. And to illustrate, for example, Novogen use these technologies.
Novogen, which is a Grimaud sisters in the group Grimaud. Novogen is a layer genetic selection company in the layer industry.
Yeah, exactly.
And they are used to get into genomic selection programs.
Since approximately 10 years, and they describe approximately of genetic gain 5 to 10% of gain more. If we compare if we compare it with a genetic selection program without any molecular information.
So 10% more each year?
Each year,
Each year, it means that like in 7 years you can double the genetic progress due to genetic selection, right?
If you have a big variability, yes, for your traits possible, I think.
Okay, thank you a lot, Guillaume, for this explanation. No problem, it's much clearer. Thank you, Guillaume.
Thank you.
Jan, I've got another question for you. Well, let's talk about money. How much Grimaud Frères is investing in this new technology?
Genomic selection is actually quite expensive. The cost is estimated approximately over 200,000 euro cost per year per line, per pedigree line. So this is quite a significant amount. But like everything, it all depends on what is your benefit on that. And the cost could be high if you don't use a good program, non-optimized program. We have the chance in the...
This is a learning curve, in fact. If you start from nothing, it's really expensive. And if you don't start from nothing, it's not that expensive, that you mean?
For sure, it is better to start from something.
Okay.
And we have the chance in the group Grimaud to have sisters company, like you mentioned, Novogen in layer selection, but there is also Choice Genetic in pig selection.
Yeah, in pig industry, yeah.
Within the Grimaud group, who are using this genomic selection since many years already. They have the knowledge, they have the people who can help us to launch a good program in genomic selection. From that, we are very confident on the gain at first, because we have the experience, but we are very confident also on the profitability of this investment in genomic selection for the interest of our clients and for all the duck industry globally.
Yes, and last question, Jan. When will it be available for customers on the field?
As it was said by Guillaume or in the movie, the first genomic choice has been done beginning of this year, by April, I think. Then it takes around 2 years to have the first parent stock from this pedigree
So
genomically
2023, right?
Yeah, 2023 for the breeder supply,
Okay.
and another 6 months to 1 year for the commercial stock. So let's say 3 years for the duck industry to be available on the market.
Okay, thank you, Jan, and congratulations, Guillaume, on the whole team working on that for this new revolution about the duck industry, which give a lot of progress in the coming years.